Shabbat Shalom. It is wonderful to be with everyone on this Shabbat, Shabbat B'Shalach, Shabbat Shirah. Because it is Shabbat Shirah, a Shabbat of song, tonight we raise our voices and we sing. Tonight, if you haven't figured out by how we are sitting, we are praying camp style. We are praying in the style of worship that was made popular by Debbie Friedman of blessed memory. Tonight, you are going to hear Debbie's melodies, those that she found, that she wrote to give voice to our traditional prayers. And in addition to song, we've added some of Alden Solivy's poetry throughout. And so tonight, we are going to ask you to step outside of your comfort zone. Put down your prayer book if you can. Put it down and focus on the music. Focus on the poetry. And if you know the melodies, we ask you, sing along, raise your voice, sing as loud as you can. It doesn't matter if you are in key or off key. It is about singing to God with joy. Come, Beloved, by Alden Solovy. If you listen, listen. If you listen, you will hear Shabbat descend from her distant place, gently clearing the air of the steady buzz of the mundane, gently inviting you to stillness, gently preparing the space for the arrival of holiness. If you listen, listen. If you listen, you will hear the arrival of luminous wonder, a radiance of glory that touches your heart. So that love pulses through your veins. The gates of your soul burst open. You run through them, skipping, singing, Maher Ahuv, hurry, beloved. How long since your hands touched mine? How long since your lips brushed these tired eyes? How long since I rested in you? Ki va moed, for the time has come. The time has come to reunite, and tears of surrender, shimmering with the taste of honey, will pour through you like grace from God's ancient well. V'chaneni ki emei olam. If you listen, listen, listen. And I ask you to gather your Shabbat candles and your cup for Kiddush as we join together.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones I love.
Shabbat candles, we welcome the warmth, the brightness of Shabbat toward us as we say, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
And now we take up our cup of blessing, our cup of Shabbat. And if you are able and if you would like, I ask you to rise. And there was evening and there was morning the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. And we join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Amen.
We say l'chaim, l'chaim to
L'chaim.
life. Oy, you may be seated. It's a good thing my tallis is purple, since I just spilled. Shabbat Shalom. And since we are doing camp style, Shabbat at camp, at least when it comes to a Devar Torah, is always that question of, do we have to be funny? Is it a story? What do we do? Because there are always so many kids there. And I want to share a story with you, and it's a story that I shared earlier today with the students at Mirowitz, as I was the special guest for Shabbat. And I love Shabbat Shirah, and I love the imagery of this Shabbat that comes out of so much of our midrashim, so many of the stories. So I want you to imagine for a moment, put yourself in the place of the Israelites. You are standing at the edge of the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds, and you hear the Egyptians behind you, and you need to move forward, and you're thinking, what do we do? There's an ocean in front of us. Once that ocean opens up, or that sea, it's not an ocean, it's a sea. Once it opens up, I want you to think about those walls of water, and imagine those walls of water like windows. So when the children of Israel escaped from Egypt, they found the dolphins of the Red Sea waiting for them, chirping their happy dolphin chirping sounds and splashing in the waters of the Red Sea. And the people, the Israelites, suddenly heard the Egyptians behind them. They heard their chariots. They heard the horses' hooves pounding, the spears clinking. And they thought to themselves, we're trapped, they cried. If we go back to Egypt, Pharaoh and his army will kill us. And if we go forward, we're going to drown in the Red Sea. But Moses raised up his arms, and God zipped the Red Sea right down the middle. The sight of the Red Sea was amazing. Amazing to see it split in half, and yet totally confusing. Can you imagine if the Israelites were confused? How confused the fish must be. A Red Sea fish would be swimming along, minding his or her own fish business, when suddenly it would be swimming in midair, which is nowhere if you're a fish. The dolphins tried to warn their friends, the fish. They swam quickly along the edge of the walls of water, chirping a warning in fish, "Don't go there." But the fish would ask, "What do you mean, don't go there? Where is the there?" And the dolphins would answer, "There, in the air." And the fish would say, "Huh? We don't see any air there." And by that time, the conversation was over because the fish were already there in the air, which is nowhere if you're a fish. And the fish in the air was not the only problem that the dolphins of the Red Sea had to face. No, the Israelites came with flocks of sheep, goats, and even a few cows. And on their way across the dry seabed, some of those flocks would walk right through the walls of water and right into the bottom of the Red Sea, which is nowhere if you're a sheep, a goat, or a cow. And the dolphins would swim quickly down to the bottom of the sea, and they would shoo the sheep and goad the goats and carry the cows back into the air, which is somewhere if you're a cow or a sheep or a goat. As if fish in the air and sheep in the sea were not enough to handle, the dolphins then saw the army of Pharaoh gaining on the Israelites. They tried to slow down Pharaoh's army by flicking their tails through the walls of water and showering the wheels of Pharaoh's war chariots so they got stuck in the mud. And when the walls of water came crashing together, the Israelites were happy because they were free at last. The fish of the Red Sea were happy because there was no air anywhere near there. And the sheep and the goats and the cows were happy because there was no Red Sea near there. But most of all, the dolphins of the Red Sea were happy because they could go back to doing what they liked best, chirping their dolphin chirping and splashing in the blue waters of the Red Sea. And so as we think of dolphins chirping, it's kind of like bird song. And this Shabbat Shirah always comes in the midst of winter, in the midst of a cold gray winter. And one of the special things about Shabbat Shirah, and it's a little known thing, is that we're actually supposed to think about the animals on this Shabbat. Very specifically, we're supposed to think about birds. There is a beautiful custom on this Shabbat of Jews going out and feeding the birds. Why do we feed birds on Shabbat Shirah? What do they have to do with the Exodus from Egypt? In our Midrash, the rabbis teach that it was the birds who taught the Israelites, who taught people how to sing. Some of the Midrashim suggest that it was the birds who would swoop in and push along the kids who were lagging behind as they crossed the sea. They would sing into their ears and remind them, keep going, and give them a little push. And once the Israelites were on the other side of the sea, that is when God gave to the Israelites manna. And the idea was that on Friday they were to gather a double portion because on Shabbat the manna would not show up. And the birds actually saved Moses because on that very first Shabbat there were some Israelites out to get Moses, and they came and they sprinkled manna on the ground, wanting to show that Moses was wrong. And yet the birds came and they ate all of that manna so that when they woke up, in fact, they recognized, just as God had said, there would be no manna on the ground. And so in the midst of winter on this Shabbat Shirah, we remember the Midrashim. We remember the story of the birds, the stories of the dolphins, of those who helped to push the Israelites along their way, helping them when they needed it most. And so we remember them and we repay them with a little bit of bird seed. And so tonight we continue singing together, raising our voices just as the birds of the Exodus, and so too like the dolphins chirping in the sea.
And as this Shabbat is the yahrzeit of Debbie Friedman of beloved memory, we're going to be singing a Shalom Aleichem of hers that she wrote so soon toward the end of her life that she didn't have a chance to officially publish it. So you may not have heard this before. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malchei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Zeitchem L'Shalom, Malchei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And we rise now for Baruch Hu.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
And I'm going to invite you to be seated. However, if you would like to remain standing through the Shema, you may. Gravity and light. Torah is gravity, binding us to our ancestors, holding us near to our God, anchoring us with wisdom and understanding. Torah is gravity, tying our lives to our history and our destiny. Mitzvot are light, illuminating our path, brightening our days, showing us the way to holiness and service, leading us to heal the world. Mitzvot are light, shining around us with beauty. Torah is gravity. May your feet never falter. Mitzvot are light. May your hands shine with grace. Blessed are God's gifts. Continue with words of Shema.
Eloheinu
Sing praises. Quiet now. Breathe. Breathe and listen. Listen to the prayers in the wind. Listen to the joy on the breeze. Listen to the hope in the heavens, for love and life are yours. Holiness and passion remain. Wonder and awe shimmer from sunrise to sunset. This is the moment where love meets joy, where hope meets surrender. What is that music? What is that radiance? What is that yearning? Quiet now. Breathe. Breathe and listen. Listen to your own voice. Listen to your own prayers. This is your power and your peace. This is your pulse and your heartbeat. This is your life. Sing praises. Sing praises.
The tapestry she wove was what we sang our history. With every thread and every strand, she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances towards the light. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. Here we go, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might.
We've just lived through a miracle. We're
Gonna dance tonight. Here we go, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women dance, they dance the whole night long. Woo!
Now we're feeling what they felt at the shores, the other side of the sea. So we take it down just a bit because they had to breathe after that moment at the sea. And one of the gifts that they received so shortly after crossing the sea was the gift of Shabbat.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael
rise now for the Amidah, if this is a time where you'd like to pick up your prayer book, we are on page 164 as we rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Bezocher Chaste Avod Ve'imahot, Umevi Gula Libnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Bezrat Sarah. Page 168. Atagi bor leolam Adonai Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim berofeh holim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Michamocha ba'al gevurot Umido melach Melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Page 170. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
You may be seated. Sephardi quarter note. If you listen to the space between the notes and the half notes, the space between heartbeats, you'll hear quarter notes of love and yearning, ancient music of hope and sorrow, infinite in variation, the echo of generations, notes that bend toward God, notes that linger with longing, notes that plead for redemption, the voice of sorrow and the voice of laughter, notes of surrender, notes that refuse to surrender, notes that cry out to Zion and Israel. If you listen to the space between the notes and the half notes, the rises and the falls, the trills and the trumpets, you will hear a rhythm and a pulse calling out, Adon Olam, Yedid Nefesh, Shachar Avakeshcha, Yoducha Reonai, Master of the universe, beloved of my heart, at dawn I seek you, my thoughts will praise you. In the space between the notes, dreams of God touch the core of being to become music. And at this time in our service, we think of those in our community, our friends, our loved ones who are in need of healing. And if you are thinking of someone who is in need of healing, I ask you at this time to call their name aloud and add it to the universe and our prayers. And we take all of those names into our hearts as we ask God to swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as we join together now singing in Mishaberach, our prayer for healing. Take a moment for silent and personal prayer. Couple of announcements. First, I will just say, if you are not familiar with Debbie Friedman and the full body of her work, you just need to type Debbie Friedman into Google or YouTube, and you will be able to access and listen to so much. She has so much music. She began writing in the 60s when she was a camper, a teenager, at the URJ Kutz camp, although then it was the UAHC Kutz camp, and continued writing until, as Rabbi Bellows said, the end of her life.
And we sing her Misha Berach
And
every Shabbat.
yes, every Shabbat we sing her Misha Berach. And actually what's kind of funny today, as Rabbi Bellows and I were putting together the service, it's interesting, I think, generationally in terms of Debbie Friedman and what people know. So given that there's about a decade or so between Rabbi Bellows and I'm very familiar with Debbie's early stuff from the 60s and the 70s because that's what we sang at summer camp growing up. Debbie Friedman was sort of the only person making Jewish music for summer camp. By the time Rabbi Bellows got to summer camp, there were lots of people making Jewish music inspired by Debbie Friedman. And so beyond just what Debbie was writing later on, there also was so much more. And so it's sort of interesting, by that point, some of the earlier stuff, people were no longer singing at summer camp, like her Eitz Chaim He, which
Right.
I sang to you today.
And I don't know it.
And he had no clue, he'd never heard of it. So just some really fun music. And so for those of you my age and older, you'll remember those. And for those of you Rabbi Bellows' age and younger, you'll probably know a lot of her later stuff, and also recognizing that she was the inspiration for Dan Nichols, for Rick Recht, for all of those who came after her. And so just to remind you that tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. is Torah study on Zoom, Shabbat morning service at 10:30, and next week now at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening for Havdalah. And a couple of programmatic announcements. This Sunday, January 31st at 1:30 p.m. on Zoom, our own Naomi Barish will be leading an informational meeting on the COVID vaccine and getting vaccinated. She will provide an overview of the COVID-19 vaccination landscape. She'll talk about the availability, the registration process, the phases, medical considerations, frequently asked questions, and more, all on Sunday. Next week, via email, you should be receiving all of the exciting programming that we will have for Purim, including our annual Purim Spiel and Megillah reading, our drive-through carnival, some fun Zoom classes, and information on how to purchase and send Mishloach Manot, Purim boxes, and there will also be information on our website and in the mail. And February is Jewish Disabilities Month. On Sunday, February 14th at 1 p.m., there will be a Zoom program with Kalman Samuels from the Shalva National Center in Israel, which is one of the largest and most advanced centers for disability care and inclusion in the world. And then for those of you with middle and high school age kids, on Monday, February 15th at 7 p.m., also on Zoom, Kara Friedman will be hosting a program on helping your teen thrive during COVID and beyond. And our hope is that you will leave with a new knowledge of what is and is not typical for this age group, when to be concerned, and ways to connect with your adolescent, and so much more. And all of these programs and the way to register for them can be found on our website. And once you register, that is when the Zoom links will be sent to you. And we turn now to page 586. If you want to pick up your prayer book for Aleinu, please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים Lifnei melech malachei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Page 591. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad.
You may be seated. We turn to page 595, if you're following along. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. This Shabbat, the heartfelt condolences of our congregation go out to the families of Marilyn Lobel and Herbert Raskus. We are in the period of Shloshim for Carolyn Sue Altman, Jerome Jerry Levy, Alan Herbert Molaski, Anthony Paul Thompson, Alan Weintraub, Elaine Weniker. This week, the Shabbat, we observe the Yartzites and we lovingly remember Anita S. Alexander, Kurt Ashner, Armin L. Bain, Samuel Barnholtz, Dr. Edward J. Berger, Abraham Burke, Lee White Block, Fred Bomsey, Alla Bubnoff, Samuel J. Bronstein, Leah H. Kaufman, Rose Florence Coplin, Herman Feigenbaum, Joseph Feldman, Irvin Fisher, Rebecca D. Franklin, Deborah Friedman, Dr. Lawrence Friedman, John J. Gersman, Martha Glazer, Louise Glickman, Celia Goldblum, Ruth E. Goldstein, Louis Gollin, H. Kenneth Gordon, Jane K. Goodman, Arthur W. Ginsberger, Susanna Hammerman, Ann Sue Halischer, Mendel Jacobs, Ethel Jasper, Arthur Weil Johnson, Rita Fass Kalman, Harry B. Kaplan, Dr. Milton Kardish, Howard I. Kay, Berkeley Kirschman, Jackie Bernard Kliban, Grace Kreiser, Joseph Lasky, Frida Levin, Blanche Levy, Bernice Marchbein, Charlotte Mayer, Jenny Miller, Sarah R. Miller, Gina Moss, Louis Moss, Rose Oxenhandler, Essie Newman, Gary Poskover, Kay Preston, Bessie Rader, Rebecca Rawson, Sydney Rubin, Stanley P. Sikowski, Marvin Schneider, David S. Schwartz, Henry Schwartz, Jack N. Simberg, Sophia Goldblum Sosna, Blanche Steinberg, Esther Thurman, Karen C. Towerman, Hannah Warshaw, Eugene H. Weeder, Benjamin Wexler, Michael B. Winthrop. Zichronam livracha, may each of their memories be for blessing. As we turn to the words of the mourner's Kaddish and we rise, page 598. Yit gadal ve'yit kadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chaye techol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei rabba mevorach le'olam olmei almaya, yit barach ve'yish tabach ve'yit pa'ar ve'yit romam ve'yit naseh, V'yit hadar, v'yit alev, v'yit halal, shemei dekudashah barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, Damiram be'alma ve'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. We are music. You may be seated. Quiet now. Listen. Breathe and listen. You are music. Your breath and hands, your smile and tears, your eyes and pulse are notes that dance in the space between us. We are music, a symphony conducted by the rhythm of life, by God's hand, by our choices day by day. Our notes play on separately together the sacred sound of living. Our music waltzes, making melodies fresh and new, never heard again, bass lines that pulse from our hearts to the soul of the universe. Joy bends sorrow, sorrow bends hope, hope bends grief, grief bends love, and love bends joy. Quiet now. Listen, breathe, and listen. The silence is your longing. The silence is your yearning for a different song. The music of your own will blocks your heart to the harmonies already dancing around you, to the chorus already singing around you. Oh, you hidden delight of heaven. Oh, you secret gift of God. We are music. We are music. The music plays through us.
This closing song is a very personal song for me. It's written by Debbie Friedman, and it's a song that my mother would sing at every life cycle event in our family. And the last time I really sang this, was to her at her funeral. And it brings just great blessings to me, and I hope that it brings great blessings to all of us. This Shabbat, Tfilat HaDerech by Debbie Friedman. It's a song for blessing, and if you know it, please sing with. May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be guided in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. May it be a Shabbat of peace, of rest, and most importantly, a Shabbat of blessing. Amen.